Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. I hope that everybody had a wonderful Purim and reached the right level of happiness that you're supposed to reach. In this short Torah lesson today, I'm going to talk about the reading of the Torah this week, one little aspect that we learned from it. And the Torah portion is Parsha Shemini. And from this Torah portion, among many other things, we can learn a very important lesson in how we should approach God in prayer. The ability to come closer to our Creator is really the we need to ask ourselves is, do we need to prepare ourselves to engage in prayer? And if so, what type of preparation is needed? Is it enough to merely stop doing whatever we're doing and begin prayer without any mental or physical preparation? So let's explore those questions. At the very beginning of this Torah reading, of this Parsha Shemini, it says, Vayomer Moshe, and Moses said, Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem tasu, Yireh aleichem kavod Hashem. Moses said, this is what God commanded you to do, that the presence of God may appear to you. So they ask questions about this. We already recognize the fact that the sacrifices were brought. So what is this sentence now? What does this extra sentence come to teach us? And the Or HaChaim tells us something the Or HaChaim Atar tells something that's very important in terms of how we should serve God. He says this sentence that says, Moses said, this is what God has commanded you that you do, that the presence of God may appear to you. He says that refers to the previous sentence. The previous sentence in the same parsha says, Vayichu es asher tziva Moshe al pnei ohel moed. They brought to the front of the tent of meeting, the Ohel Moed, the things that Moses had commanded. And then it says, Vayikruvu kol ha'edo v'yamidu lifnei Hashem. All of the community leaders came, all of the congregation came and stood before God. Notice the change in language. It doesn't say they came and stood before the tent of meeting, the Ohel Moed, but they stood before God. And what the Or HaChaim is teaching us is that in order to serve God, we have to have preparation. We have to do something before. And he quotes King David. In King David's Tillim, it says, Shvisi Hashem l'negdi samid. I will always remember, I will always have the presence of God in front of me. Ki mimini ba means is King David always carried a small Sefer Torah with him, and that was the Torah that was on his right hand. So he says, so the Or HaChaim says that the purpose, that the way to achieve perfection and be able to pray to God is through Torah, to have the Torah with you. There's an interesting comment, an interesting Devar Torah that I read from Rabbi Chaim. And he says that if somebody just does a mitzvah, do a commandment, you're praying, but you don't have the right intent and you don't have the right preparation, it's a mitzvah without a soul. You don't have the soul of the mitzvah. And he clarifies this by telling a story about Rabbi HaKohen. Rabbi HaKohen was a Gaon, a great scholar who lived 200 years ago in Turkey. And he wrote a book that was called Ezer Eliyahu, the belt of Elijah the prophet. And we know from the book of Malachim, of Kings, that Eliyahu wore a special leather belt around him, an unusual thing. And Rabbi Yahu HaKohen, was a very humble person, and he said, the name of this book doesn't mean that I am anyway close to what Eliyahu did in wearing this belt. But the name of the book comes from a story that happened to me. And what is the story? He says, once upon a time, and this is a story that's told my prayer service to God, whether it was Shacharis, Mincha, Marav, one of the prayer services. And I always had a gartel with me, a belt that I would tie around me in preparation for God. I wouldn't just jump in. I would have some preparation. I'd tie this belt around and realize that I'm going to come closer to the Creator, and I'm doing something to bring myself mentally close. So he's ready to begin davening, and he looks around. He forgets. He's forgotten to take his belt with him, a special prayer belt. So he looks down at the ground and he sees a black piece of fabric. And he reaches down, he gets this piece of what appeared to be a black piece of fabric, ties it around him, and begins his praying. And he goes through the entire prayer service. And when he's done, he takes his black belt off to replace it, and all of a sudden, the belt jumped from his hand onto the ground and slithered away. The belt was not a belt. It was a snake. It was a snake, and he didn't realize it. And because of that miracle that he used the snake to wrap himself up for prayer, that's why he named his book that. So Moshe McCoverin told this story, and he said, I'm amazed. I'm not amazed by the fact that the snake didn't bite Rabbi HaKohen. That's clear. A person on that level would not be bitten. Going and ready for prayer, that he picked up a snake. Didn't even realize it was a snake. He was so intent on preparing himself for prayer. That's what amazes me. And the lesson we learn from that is that we need to be in the right mindset to pray. It's not enough to just simply run into the synagogue and pick up a book and start praying. Think about it. Prepare yourself for it. Whether you wear a particular belt, gartel, which is a Hasidic kind of a thing, whether you wear that or not, that isn't the question. The question is, what is your mental attitude going in? And when we go in, we should go in with the idea, we go in to pray, we should go in with the idea of we want to serve God, and we want to come close to God. Let it not be something rote that we do, but let it be something that really brings us closer to God, which is the ultimate purpose of prayer. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat, and let us all try our best to do what we can to come closer to God. Shabbat Shalom.